Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Actioncoach, and today we're diving into the minds of some credible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Epic Entrepreneur. I am so excited today about our guests. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Have you written a book? Have you ever looked at all the areas that go into writing a book? Not just the work of the book, but all the other things. And our guests today are from PR by the Book, and I'd like to welcome Marika and Doug Flatt.
Thanks, Andy. Happy to be here.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. This is going to be so much fun. We've not ever done husbands and wives, but we're going to have a great time today.
Yeah.
So this is wonderful. So let's start with this. I'll start with Marika. So tell me this. How did this all get started? How long have you been doing this? And when did you guys know that you were going to be a book publishing company?
So I worked in the same field for 7 years before we started PR by the Book. So I was in a small business here in Austin that was doing the same thing on a nationwide basis. So literary publicist. And I stayed there for 7 years until a time where I knew it was time for me to go out on my own for a lot of different reasons. I had the confidence to do it because I had just recently won a very prestigious book publicity award, and I had a lot of contacts, and I honestly had no doubt that it would work. And my idea, but this just goes to show how Doug and I have different personalities. We think about different things in different viewpoints. My idea was to go out like as a freelancer. And Doug said, no, we're going to set this up as a business. This is going to be PR by the Book. We're going to do all the things. We're going to have a website. We're going to do LLC. We're, going to set it up as if this will be a business more than yourself. And so I was like, okay, let's do that. And so the first, let's say year and a half, I was really taking on not literary work. I was doing small business work on the PR side. I didn't want there to be any conflict of interest where I was coming from. And so we had a good, year and a half where we could just kind of get everything laid out, good foundation. And we just knew as a couple that this was the right time. We had young kids, and we knew that it was going to be a good solution to life balance, work balance for us.
That is awesome. I love it. All right. So Doug, here's a question for you. I know that you're a fellow SOB. Now, folks, that son of a boss, right? He's the son of a boss. So entering into this as a family business, what do you think the top 3 things that have made you and Marika successful in business?
Well, I think, one of the first things that comes to mind is just our strengths and weaknesses offset each other perfectly. Like we in some ways, I feel like we were kind of accidental entrepreneurs, like in terms of working together. But it turns out, when we actually started working together, that we realized that, our strengths and weaknesses as it relates to running a business complement each other perfectly. And I think that's probably the number one thing. And, just like what makes a good, healthy marriage is communication and, being able to communicate, efficiently and for the longest time, I think, us really being able to understand, it kind of goes back to the first one, but us being able to understand where our strengths and weaknesses are, where our lanes converge, and really be able to see that and kind of know that. And we have that down on paper in writing of like, okay, this is my role. This is your role. This is our joint roles. And that's, when we talk to other couples that are either in business or thinking about business, that's one of the first things I always say is like, be clear on that. because that's really, really important.
And it helps that I don't want to do his stuff and he doesn't want to do my stuff.
That's true.
Amen to that. That is a good thing. So I love that. And so when you look at that, so tell me this, what would be the best advice you would give another husband and wife going into business with each other?
Well, we didn't actually learn this until we joined Actioncoach, like 19 years into business. And by the way, we're like 21 and a half years in business now. But one of the things that we learned that I would tell everybody to start out with is we now have a weekly meeting that's on our calendar. It's every Thursday, 2 p.m. And we are accountable to that meeting. So we keep just a running Google Doc of all the topics that we need to talk to each other about so that we're not being like, and it's not to say we never do this anymore, but we used to be like, oh, hey, I need to tell you this, or I need to talk about this. And the other person's right in the middle of a big project or whatever. And we were doing that constantly. And like I said, it's not like we don't ever do that now, but we're a lot better about not doing it, because if I've got something that I want to talk to Doug about it, I put it on the agenda for this next week. And I think that helps us give each other more space in the workday. And, I will say, like, if anybody's figured out how to not bring your work into the kitchen at dinner time or whatever, I would love to get more tips on that too, because, we've been doing this for so long and we really do try to minimize that. But it's hard because, we might be in the kitchen and I remember something about a meeting that I had this day and I want to tell Doug about it, and so it does flow over and like creep into dinner time and, after dinner time. And we try to be aware of that. But
that's really interesting. And so for all transparency here, folks, the Doug and Marika have really helped me publish my book. But to that point, I think there has to be some sort of a safe word, right? Like there are things that you can bring to the dinner table, but there are also things that each of us have to know is if there's a hot topic that's a trigger, somebody has to be brave enough to say, yeah, not now. Right?
It's usually Doug.
Yeah.
Doug, you're the voice of reason.
I am, when it comes to this anyway.
That is awesome. All right. So that's great. Okay. Looking at this information right here, this is a great conversation. So I'll let you guys pick. Each of you can talk about your biggest challenge, but in all this time, what would you say has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Well, one of the things that I thought about is that we had to get to the point where we were self-aware enough to know that we had really taken our business as far as we could on our own with the tools that we had at the time. And so, I think that was, and there are other challenges that came after that for sure. But that is one thing that kind of sticks out to me is that, we were really just kind of going along like ignorance is bliss for years of, oh, things are going well. We can pay our bills. We're doing well. We're running the company and all of that. And then we got to a point where we decided we needed to have goals for the future. What does this look like 5 years from now? What does it look like 10 years from now? Now, I will say that when we came to that realization and we decided to dip back into utilizing a coach and a group, there were other challenges that came after that because, we had a challenging year last year, just hiring and training and turnover and dealing with some of that, which was a very challenging year, especially in the business that we're in. But it helped that it felt like we weren't in it just all by ourselves. We had a group around us and we had a coach and we had team members that were just as very passionate, maybe not just as passionate about the business as us because we're the owners, but also very passionate about making the company a success. And so all of that helped. But yeah, I mean, we just constantly have to remember that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Doug, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think once we realize that we, thanks to Action Coach's help and helping us see that, like, we owned a job, we both owned a job, and so once our eyes were open to that, and we realized that we owned a job, the big challenge was, well, how do we not own a job? And so that's the journey that we've been on, and that's a big challenge, but it's also been very rewarding in seeing how much progress we've made towards, not owning that job anymore and really being a legitimate business owner.
Oh, love it. Love it. Well, that leads right into the second. So what did you personally have to learn to grow in order to come to that realization?
Yeah, I think, I think mindset is probably one of the biggest things that I've learned. I mean, I went through NLP during this process, of the last couple of years, and
you should probably say what that is.
Yeah.
Do you
Neuro-linguistic programming.
I couldn't think of the N. Neuro-linguistic program. There you go.
Oh, I was going to say something different for P. I'm glad I didn't say
neuro-linguistic programming. So, that helped me be a better communicator. It helped me better understand, my own challenges and how to get out of my own way. And so I think from a learning perspective, that really got rid of some obstacles that really cleared the way for success.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Marika, what about you? What did you have to learn?
So it makes me reflect back on the fact that I was only 24 or 25 when I was thrown into a management role in my first company. I was not ready. I was not prepared. The owner had a ton of confidence in me, and I did a lot wrong. And going into management so early in my 20s, I felt like, I have to have all the answers. Like, I have to be the one who knows the right decision. And, I have to tell them what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. And none of that worked out very well in my mind, kind of looking back on it. I had to learn to listen to others and to, get better ideas than maybe what I was already thinking that should be the path. And I always love to reflect back on, it's actually a Brene Brown quote. And she said, because she's all about vulnerability, that's her big word. And so she talked about coming into a conversation with an employee and basically saying, we're going to talk about this, and I'm probably going to get about a C at this right now, but we're going to talk about it, and you're going to have some viewpoints on it, and I'm coming in with some viewpoints. And so let's just discuss it. And I think that vulnerability is key when you're running a business, a small business, especially because, we're in very tight with our employees because it's not a big company. Like, there's not a lot of separation between us and all of the employees. And so I think that vulnerability is really important and something that I've definitely had to learn over the years. And that's led me to listen to other people and adopt ideas that were different from my own and be okay with that.
Oh, that is wonderful. I love Brene Brown. She's got so many good quotes. And I think that's a great point for everybody as a business owner. Vulnerability is hard. Oh, it's really hard. All right. So this is a question. I know it's not on the list, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So I'll let you choose who gets to go first. With where you want to take your business, what is it you think you need to learn in order to become the owner of that size of a business?
Yeah, for me, it's that for the first time in my life, I will need to learn to not be in direct contact with everybody on our team and to trust managers who would be doing the role that I've been doing for 21 years. And so that's going to be a process, and it will be necessary for us to grow to where we want to be and me not work 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I've got kind of two things. One is related to Marika, and one of those is learning how to be a board member, like learning how to run the company as a board member and not as a day-to-day person. And then the second is like we're kind of still in the trenches as it relates to marketing. So I've got to continue to learn and get better in marketing, because I've got to be able to do that and transition that to the team. So those are two things.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you both have been very complimentary about business coaching. So let's touch on that for a minute. Why did you get a coach, and what has it done for your business? And I'll go to Marika first this time.
Mm-hmm. So recently, I heard the quote at Actioncoach that some leads take longer to bake than others. And that was us, because Doug had actually gone to a workshop a long time before I did. And he went and kind of came back and told me about it. It wasn't something that we spent a whole lot of time discussing. And then I'm thinking maybe a year later, we got another opportunity to go to another workshop, and we both went. And I got a lot out of it. I took a ton of notes. And we came back and we were like, hey, that might be a really good investment. I learned a lot from this 1 hour. So maybe we should consider this. And so we kind of had that third encounter where we had, a 1-on-2 meeting, and we signed on then to work with Actioncoach. And it was a very interesting time in our business. About a month and a half after that, we lost a very important work family member, and we just went into a very unusual situation that I wouldn't wish on anybody, which is grieving someone that you love, and at the same time absorbing that role and trying to figure out how to honor that person by continuing to do their role and do it well. And it was just something that we never imagined we would be dealing with. But because we were with Actioncoach at the time, we had some support with that transition. And so I think it was very interesting that, we had committed to coaching at the time that we did. And we just had to be flexible and have some grace with ourselves too, because there's been a lot of times where it's like, oh my gosh, we have so many ideas from Actioncoach. We want to do so much. We got to do this. We got to do that. And then it's like, wait a minute, but my day to day, I have to, work on the business development and spend time managing and doing that. So we've had to learn like that strange balance of giving yourself grace, but also holding yourself accountable to getting the stuff done that you need to get done.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Doug, for you.
Yeah, when we initially, finally sat down with Actioncoach, we were originally really coming to the table with help on our subscription model that we have, and that was kind of really the main reason. And then, just through a few conversations, realized this is much bigger.
I forgot about that.
Than just needing help with a subscription. Like that, we have an opportunity to, transform this business with some help. And that was a big eye opener. And the whole time we've been with Actioncoach, we've not focused 1 second on our subscription model. It's it just kind of goes back to the adage of you can't read the label inside the bottle. And so having the outside perspective to really see like, this is what you have in front of you, and this is the opportunities you have, and here's some ways that you can take full advantage.
I will say, though, that even though none of our work has been for our Author to Influencer Accelerator, which is the subscription program, the things that we've learned for PR by the book, we can apply to Author to Influencer and also to our other business, which is Texas Lifestyle Magazine. So we're finding ourselves, and I guess that's the best sign of like comprehension when you think about kids in school and then they're just tested and the information just leaves their head. We're actually comprehending what we're learning enough to apply it to other businesses and other situations and other challenges that we might encounter.
That is excellent. All right. So a few more questions here. All right. So I'll start with Doug this time. What would be the best advice you would give another entrepreneur today?
I would say, if you're starting a business, start out with the right foundation. I think we had a good foundation, but then once we realized, that we owned a job, to really.
You might want to explain what that concept is, because a lot of people might not understand that, like owning a job, because I actually forgot about that concept until you just said it.
Well, yeah, I mean, owning a job means, you're in the day to day and the company revolves around you and what you do every single day, versus owning a company, you've got someone else doing the day to day and you're owning the overall company and making, more higher level decisions, and not in on the day to day doesn't revolve around your, what you do. But Action Coach has really made us see that, like, okay, we had to kind of go back to the foundation. We had to do some foundation work. Some of the foundation was good and other parts of the foundation was not so good. So we had to, go back and really look at parts of the business, and in some cases there was no foundation. There was no concrete, there was nothing, and so we had to build that from scratch. So I would say, no matter how big the business is at the moment, start building that foundation as if it's going to be big. And that way, because we've had to do a lot of work, over the last several years to really get to the point where we can get out of the day to day and be legitimate business owners. But we've had to do a lot of foundational work to get there.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Marika, for you, best advice to give that entrepreneur that's going into business today?
I think hiring people that know more than you about a certain area is really important. I mean, I can tell you, I don't want to know everything there is to know about social media. I'm at the stage in my life where I was more than happy for us to find someone as our digital media director who knew a lot more than I did about that. And I'm happy about that, and there's times where I'm like, oh, that would be a great question for our digital media director to answer. So I think that's important. And I think that's a shift that you have to get to when you get okay with delegating or get okay with having somebody help you. I'll never forget when I was told by somebody from the outside that I needed to have help in business development, that I couldn't just continue to do it from soup to nuts all on my own. And it was at first a feeling of like total fear of, wait, but if I don't do it, is it going to be done the right way? And this was a decade ago. And I was able to get okay with having somebody help me in that area, more on that, admin side of it. And I think that the more you grow, and I guess it doesn't matter what size your business is, but if you're growing at all, like, you have to be okay with delegation. You have to be okay looking for people who know more than you about things. And then, be ready to, give them some of that control. You want them to take that initiative and run with everything, because the sooner you do that and the more you do that, the more you can breathe, because things are taken off your plate and you can spend time on something else that matters. And so I think that's a process.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Okay. One more surprise question. Here it is. Okay, Doug, what would be the best advice you would go back and give your 25-year-old self?
Oh, let's see.
And remember, your kids are going to see this.
I would say, I remember graduating from college and just kind of being done with like the books and the studying and just like I'm just done. And what I've realized, especially in the last 3 years, is how important it is to just keep learning and having that mentality of you always have to stay on top of things and always be learning new things and going back to things that you think that I think that's another thing. It's like, oh, you think Action Coach shows us this pretty consistently where like, oh, there's one thing they start talking about again. It's like, oh, well, we've talked about this a million times. Like, I know what this is. But then when you see it from a different lens, because you're, in a different place, you see it differently. You can appreciate and absorb it differently. So always be learning. I think that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self.
And also, I think it's so interesting to think like you have a marketing degree and you're still learning about marketing. I have a communications degree and I'm still learning about communicating. So, we're 25 years past that or whatever, maybe more. And, it's funny that we're learning more now, honestly, than we did in the classes to get our degree in the same things that we're doing right now.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, kids, that's a great lesson. That is a great lesson for all of us. All right. Well, this has been another edition of the Epic Entrepreneur. Thank you, Marika and Doug from PR by the Book. If you're looking at writing a book and need publicity for the book, or you need education about the book you're going to do, I highly recommend Doug and Marika. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Yep, thanks Andy. Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for their pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.